Hello all, and welcome back from break. Unfortunately, I'm not feeling well today, and I will not be in, but I did not want us to get too far behind when we are starting our next chapter. So I want to go through kind of the beginning information from chapter 4, which is states of consciousness. So up to this point, we've been talking a lot about the biological aspects of psychology. We talked about the brain and the nervous system and our senses. Now we're going to get into the area of our cognitive function. So consciousness is really about thinking. It's about awareness. So we start with just a basic definition of what consciousness is. So it's an individual's awareness of external events and internal sensations under a condition of arousal. So to break that down, we have to kind of talk about what awareness and arousal are. So awareness is basically our thoughts about one's experiences. So what are we aware of? What are we experiencing? What are we sensing around us? And then arousal, being engaged in the environment. A lot of times we think of arousal as a sexual term. That's not what this is. Arousal is just basically being able to focus on something, being able to be engaged with the things around us. When we talk about consciousness, we talk a lot about metacognition. Metacognition is thinking about thinking. So that's what we're going to be doing a lot in this chapter. Is we're going to be metacognitive. We're going to think about what we think, and this is actually a developmental point in our lives. If any of you go on to take developmental psychology, you'll see that there is a point in our lives as small children where we develop what's called a theory of mind, where we have an understanding that we think, we feel, we perceive, we have our own private experiences that are different from what other people experience. And usually I believe that's around age 4 that happens. Actually, I would encourage you right now to pause this video and then go look at the other video that I have posted that talks about theory of mind. And this guy explains it through a developmental test that people do on children to see if they've developed that theory of mind or not. And it's called the Sally Ann test. It's kind of interesting. So you sit down with a child and you tell them a story about these two children, Sally and Ann, and they're playing with a ball. They're playing with a ball, and Sally puts the ball in a blue box, and then she leaves because she needs to, I don't know, go get a drink of water or something, and she leaves the room. And so while Sally has left the room, Anne takes the ball out of the blue box and she puts it in the red box. And then Sally comes back, and you ask the child, where does Sally think the ball is? Well, a child who is able to understand that Sally's experience is different than Anne's will say, well, Sally probably thinks the ball is in the blue box, but in reality, it's not. It's in the red box, but she doesn't know that because she wasn't there to get that information. A smaller child under the age of 4 might say, well, it's in the red box. That's just where it is. Well, yes, it is, but Sally doesn't know that, and they don't understand that. The guy in the video explains it a little better than I do. So going to watch that video might be helpful at this point. So to talk a little bit more about awareness, we're going to go into looking at different levels of awareness. So I have this in your notes, this kind of iceberg visual, this graphic, because I do think that it helps a little bit to understand what these levels of consciousness look like. The things above the water of the iceberg are the things that we are conscious of, the things that we are aware of, the things we understand and know. The things below obviously it's a lot deeper. There's a lot going on underneath that conscious level that we don't always know about, that we aren't currently aware of and focused on. A better visual for some of you might be in the textbook. So if this is helpful for you, this one might be a better visual to look at. So I'll kind of refer to both of them. So when we're looking at the iceberg, if you look at what is above the water line there, we're going to be looking at the higher level consciousness and the lower level consciousness. So higher level consciousness, this is our controlled processing. This is our executive functioning. This is what we are purposefully focusing on. And if you kind of go down to the bottom of the notes page, those first two things listed, directed consciousness and divided consciousness, those are both in that area of higher level consciousness. So our directed consciousness is focused and orderly awareness. This is what we are purposefully focusing on. Hopefully right now, you all have directed consciousness at my voice and what you're seeing on the screen in this video. Some of you may have divided consciousness. That's when you're doing two activities occurring simultaneously. So some of you might be have this video on in the background and you're playing a game on your phone, or looking at a text, or texting someone else, or looking at social media, or whatever it is you might be doing. That would be divided consciousness. You're trying to do two things at once and you're trying to focus on both of them. Actually, there's some studies that say that this would be multitasking, and multitasking doesn't actually isn't actually a thing. It's not something that we're capable of. We just do, instead of doing two things well, we just do two things really poorly, which I think is always interesting. Now, right on the line, in between consciousness and that lower level, that pre-conscious or subconscious level, that is where our altered states of consciousness lie. And we're going to talk about that later in the chapter. This can be drugs, this can be a traumatic experience, it can just be you're really tired, you could be under hypnosis, sensory deprivation. Any of those things could cause an altered state of consciousness. The one that we are probably most familiar with is being under the influence of drugs or alcohol. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later on, and what that does to our consciousness. So when you get underneath in that underwater area, that's when we start talking about subconscious awareness or no awareness, and this is where it can be very confusing. So I'm actually going to go back to the note catcher here, and what's confusing about this is our understanding of what some of these terms mean versus what they mean within the realm of psychology. So we have a pre-conscious or a subconscious level. These are our memories. These are our stored knowledge. If I were to ask you who was the first president of the United States, you can go back into your subconscious level. You can bring that into your consciousness and you can tell me that was George Washington. You don't have that in your mind, on your focus. You're not aware of that 100% of the time because you have to be. And so we have to have that in our pre-conscious, ready to pull up and ready to be conscious of, but just kind of there under the surface. Beyond that, we have what is referred to as the unconscious level. Again, if you go back to the text, that could be what Freud calls the no awareness level. And I like to separate these. So there's non-conscious being you are in a coma, so you are not conscious of anything, and then unconscious. Unconscious is Freud's belief or understanding that we have these fears, we have these feelings, thoughts, things that are so unacceptable or unpleasant to us that we don't want to acknowledge that they exist, and and we're going to talk about this more when we talk about psychoanalysis and we talk about personality and development. But it's whatever, these things that are painful for us to acknowledge. And so in an effort to protect us from those, our mind, our consciousness hides them from us. They still may come out in different ways, and sometimes we don't know why they're coming out in those ways, but they are. And so someone who maybe had a traumatic experience as a child, think about people who live in really, bad circumstances. Maybe as a child, their parents were arrested in front of them, and it was a traumatic experience for them. Mom and dad are on drugs or whatever, and they get arrested and taken to jail. Now, that might be an experience that child doesn't remember because it was so traumatic and so painful for them that they've kind of pushed it down into this unconscious level. And yet, when they see a police officer, they now feel all of this fear and all of this anger and they don't know why, they just feel it. And that's because of this experience that they had in the past. I do have one kind of personal experience to share with you on that. I think I told you when we were talking about the brain that probably 15 years ago, my mom had a brain injury. And it was very traumatic at the time, and it was really scary for a lot of us. And the weird thing that happened to me after that, every time you meet an ambulance on the road or whatever, the ambulance happens to go by, it happens in life. And every time that would happen, I would get very emotional. I would like start to tear up, and like, I don't know where this ambulance is going. I don't know what the deal is. And yet I would just have that feeling. And, that was because it really was, getting into that unconscious level. I wasn't thinking about my mom. I wasn't thinking about, the trauma that she had gone through. But I was reminded of that on that unconscious level. And I was actually having physical emotions that were linked to that unconscious level, if that makes sense at all. I no longer feel that way, which is kind of strange. So I've actually kind of come past that now. So I can see an ambulance without crying these days. Other types of consciousness, we talked about directed and divided. That's in that top layer. And when we also have like an unfocused awareness. So this is again kind of in that maybe pre-conscious area, the flowing consciousness, where you have this unfocused awareness. You're not really paying attention to what's happened. You're just kind of going from thing to thing and noticing, what's happening here, what's happening there. Oh, look, there's a bird outside, and then I hear something and my attention goes to that. I'm not focused on anything. It's just things around me affecting what I am aware of. Daydreaming, I think sometimes gets confused with flowing consciousness, kind of that letting your mind wander. But daydreaming is considered focused thinking, but it's thinking about daydreams. So daydreaming is when you are thinking specifically about something that is not currently happening to you. And then again, altered states of consciousness we're going to talk about later. That is different than a normal awareness, outside of what we really kind of think on that line of conscious and pre-conscious awareness. So hopefully this kind of helped to clarify some things for you. I'm not sure I will be back tomorrow. If not, I will probably have another video for you. We're going to move on. We're going to talk about the next section in the book, which is sleep and dreams. So tomorrow I'll be posting a note catcher for that. That starts on page 133. And let's see, where does it go to? This looks like a longer section. And actually, we'll probably just be talking more specifically about sleep to page 145. So 133 to 145. So I hope you all have a good day. and I hope to be back and see you soon.